Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 p.m. on May 14th, 2024, and we're calling to order this meeting of the Gallatin City Council Committee work session. And we'll start with the roll call. Ms. Kittrell, if you would, please.
Vice Mayor Love.
Here.
Councilman Carter.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilwoman George.
Here.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
And Councilman Juvance. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before you, this evening, you have the minutes from the April 23rd, 2024 Council Committee meeting for your consideration for approval.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion to approve by Councilwoman George, second by Vice Mayor Love. Are there any additions or corrections requested? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the April 23rd, 2024 Council Committee meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. They are approved unanimously. We'll now move to public recognition. Unlike regular council meetings, all public recognition is at the beginning of the meeting, whether it's an item that's on the agenda or not. You may speak for 5 minutes. We ask that you introduce yourself and give us your address for the record. And I think that's about it. Just be kind, treat each other with respect, and we will try to do the same. So thank you all. Public recognition is now open. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Michelle Haynes, and I'm at 335 West Main, and I am here to talk about the flooding. I had 3 different properties that flooded, and I'm sure a lot of people had properties that flooded, and I'm sorry if I flooded some of you council members with a lot of videos. I do apologize in advance. 335 West Main is the one I'm going to talk about right now. The water comes from across the street. It comes from Mr. Fan's parking lot. It comes from Rogers. It comes down the street, and it runs right into where my offices are. This time it flooded, and what it did in 2010 also, it flooded You Can Rent. Because the water comes with such force, it runs into the building. It does not. It runs around the building, and it's not coming from the creek. And I kind of talked to the engineers about it. They were really nice to send me some maps on another piece of property that I'm going to talk about real quickly. But that's something I think you need to know as council people. And I'm not sure where it comes from. I don't know how it jumps over the railroad tracks and comes all the way. It's like a river. I had all of Rogers' plants in my parking lot. Had that in 2010 also. And it was in the middle of the street and in the parking lot. The one I'm deeply concerned about, too, is on Lion Street. It's a little bitty short street. I've got a little map here if you want to pass it around. The water, they put in a big pipe. They mounded up the pipe, over the pipe, and I think if you look at some maps, because Nick was very nice to send me a map that showed me what they've done with culverts and pipes. And what I understand is the pipe runs directly into the creek. The creek then, when it rises, runs backwards. All of the water comes back out of the pipe, in addition to all the water coming from Access Coach. Access Coach bought in 2008. I think they probably paved in 2009. 2010 was the first flooding. They put a big culvert for Bly Street, and then they put these pipes in a little later. And I'm sorry, I wish Nick were here and he could put his map up, because his map is very informative, what has been done. But nothing seems to happen. We had 24 inches of water in the building. I got over there right after things started going down when I took videos, and it was halfway up my calf. It wasn't 24 inches at that time. But you could see the water coming from the culvert. It hits a pipe. It goes straight up in the air, because I guess you've got water coming from 2 directions, just squirting everywhere. This is, almost a 100-year-old building. The locker plant is the old locker plant that was built back in the 1800s. This has never happened before until 2010. And I just really wish the city council and possibly the engineering department, I know I've talked with them, they've been on the property several times. They say they're working on it, and nothing seems to change. And I'm sure they're working on it, and I know wheels are slow. But, any questions? Sorry about all the videos.
It's all a public comment period, so nobody interacts. So
Okay, gotcha.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Karen Bookout, 1006 Quailwood Cove, Gallatin, Tennessee. Tonight, I've talked about a lot of different topics, the salamander and quality of life and water quality, but tonight I want to talk about noise. First, I'd like to start with, sorry, now it's going to misbehave. Let me start with this. Hear that? Peaceful, lovely, quiet. It's pretty much what I wake up to every morning. And one of the things I love most about living in Gallatin, it's peaceful and it's lovely. Now I'd like to play this for you. That's blasting for a construction site. Do you want your constituents to hear that? Or do you want your constituents to hear this? Children playing, enjoying the outdoors, having a good time. And nothing puts a smile on my face like watching a group of little kids play out in a park somewhere and enjoying nature and laughing. Or they can hear this. Can you hear that? Can you hear any of them that I'm playing? Hang on a second. Hang on a sec there. There, it's gonna go. You hear that? That's construction blasting. When we moved here, I enjoyed the peace and quiet because I no longer listen to this. Suburban road traffic, that's not even a city, that's just suburban road traffic. I got tired of hearing it in Florida. I've come to enjoy hearing this. It's peaceful. It's quiet. Imagine leaving that legacy for your constituents rather than having them listen to construction blasting all day long, cracking their homes. There's a couple of people who come in here week after week whose mothers are in their 90s. I would imagine that blasting will scare the life out of them rather than sitting on their porch and enjoying a peaceful morning, drinking their coffee, listening to the birds and the crickets. And if this property could possibly become a park, it's not too late. I'm sure some of you are laughing at me, but it's not too late. There are grants available. There are conservation easements available. This could become a park perhaps named after a current or past city leader with trails, green space, playgrounds for kids. If this property, Lock 4 and Kirkpatrick is developed, there will be more flooding. And the blasting will go on day after day after day until it's rooftop after rooftop after rooftop. What do you want your legacy to be? Rooftop after rooftop? Or do you want a park? I can imagine the citizens sitting in this room, your constituents throughout the city, would praise you. That could be an amazing legacy for each of you if you considered making this a park rather than bulldozing it all down, because as I've said before, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't bring it back. Thank you very much.
My name is Phyllis Scott. I live on 117 Barry Avenue, and I have been here more than once. Wednesday, I got rain all under my house. is deteriorating. You couldn't even get down the street. And I'm asking, I don't understand why things can't be done to fix that. They got a retainer that holds water on the end of Trousdale. That water came up out of that. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a street person. I don't dig ditch. But that's what you're for, to find out what we can do to keep water where it needs to go. If you're not living in that spot, you don't have any worries. I'm living in it, and I got worries. And I'm asking, please find a way to fix it. If you just throwed a couple dirt over there, that would show me you trying to do that, but you're not even doing that. I don't understand. Thank you. Oh, I do have pictures if you like. Would you like to see them? That's the front, back of my house. And like I said, it's not the first time.
My name is Ruth Fennell. I live at 1049 Blue Jay Way, Gallatin. About 4 weeks ago, a Gallatin homeowner spoke before you with his concerns, and because of his out-of-town work schedule, he's asked that the rest of his comments be read tonight. So these are his words to the city council, and I quote, "In the end, the person that suffers most is your middle-class buyer that has no knowledge of how a home is assembled. They are taken advantage of. Typically, your building codes department is there to protect them from builders pulling a fast one. However, after my experience and seeing firsthand how this building department is, that is not the case. An inspector should not simply drive to a job site, slap a green sticker on without a proper inspection simply because they're buddy-buddy with the project manager. Shortcuts are being taken. A framing inspection on a 3,500 square foot home should not take less than 45 minutes if done properly. If the inspectors here did a proper inspection and not one through a Zoom call, like they were to obtain during COVID on CO, they would have caught the major flaws in the framing of our house, from a massive 5-foot cut taken out of a TGI beneath a load-bearing wall, to the undersized studs, to the upside-down girder truss, to the outdoor spigots that have no shutoff to them and freeze and bust. My street of 45 homes have had, in the past 3 years, 14 homeowners surrender their fight with the builder or surrender their frustrations in their home and sell off their home. Now the second owner suffers, as many have bought in a market where cash and as is wins you the home. That's a 30% turnover rate, people leaving their homes during insane interest rates. That's really saying something. With my experience in doing utilities here in Gallatin, I was an underground utility foreman for Southern Site, a sub-company beneath Goodall Homes, and Goodall being a sub-company of Clayton Homes owned by Warren Buffett. Southern Site, in its short period of operations, amassed several $100 million in heavy company, many of which they didn't have an operator to put in a seat. Why, you might ask? To keep the company in the red as a tax write-off for Mr. Buffett. Out of the local companies I've done utilities for, such as Jones Brothers, Civil Constructors, and Cleary, I have not once seen the type of work Southern Site was doing. In Kensington, they had a new crew who had never laid storm or sewer, putting pipe in the ground. I was running a water line crew for this development, witnessed firsthand the poor level of work the other crews were doing. They have drain basins in at wrong elevations that water will never get to the casting. Pipe that's supposed to go downward slope for water to drain is either flat or going uphill. Standing water is a clear issue in that community. I was once in the truck with my superintendent at the time when Gallatin inspectors showed up to inspect the sewer in the storm. The general superintendent simply handed them some prepaid Visa cards and asked if they were now approved. They nodded, accepted the Visa gift cards. Short time later, Southern Site declared bankruptcy. It had served its intended purpose. The company that replaced them, I would put in the same category as Southern Site, inexperienced and poor quality of work. It's the same company that's at fault for the sewer problems of Liberty Creek School. Companies like these are not benefiting our community. They're gutting it like we are their golden goose. There are Facebook pages for these companies to warn other. I believe D.R. Horton's Facebook page is called Shoddy Work by D.R. Horton, and that has almost 40,000 members. Davidson Home Buyers Beware, unquote, has several thousand members there also. I have friends in Arizona and Texas that both of their homes were a mess from D.R. Horton. One of them got rescission and the builder paid them their money back. You can watch inspectors like Cy Porter with large social media following pick apart these new bills by the developers. I do not believe our building codes department is up to the task to take on these extremely large developers. I believe after witnessing the brides happen with this southern site and this city that an oversight committee should be formed, a committee to review and look over code inspectors, keep the department accountable. Nashville started something similar. Their new Metro Department of Transportation is a complement to their public works side. Their main purpose is to observe and correct, ensure guidelines are followed. Out of all the projects in downtown Nashville, I've run utilities for to include Nashville Yards, the soccer stadium, several high-rise residential towers, and also Vanderbilt. I have never failed an inspection with Metro and their more stringent inspections. Our community is growing too fast. Our roads cannot keep up. We need to follow what Cool Springs did. Ensure infrastructure is in place prior to building up. Look at the increase in traffic Gallatin has had, especially coming off 386 toward 109. It's now too late to try and expand that roadway with placement of developments so close to the edge of the current road. Example being, it took me 15 minutes to travel 2.8 miles to get here. The city needs accountability starting in the building codes department. Lot 4 development should never be approved. Nexus should never have D.R. Horton in it, nor should this county. And that's on behalf of that homeowner. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Todd Alexander, 217 Strange Circle here in Gallatin. Many of you first met me 5 years ago. You were your predecessors. For those that are newer, as the Wind Song was being developed, my property backs up to it. I came to every single Planning Commission meeting. I came to every single City Council meeting, sometimes in a wheelchair with a broken leg. Talking about, I was worried about the water. We're 40 feet lower than the Publix parking lot. And I was assured every single time, oh, we'll take care of that, we'll take care of that. The representative from Reagan Smith stood right here and said, oh, I'm sure we can take care of it. There are 2 retention ponds between my property and the townhomes that are closest. They're behind where the Publix is. And we were told that a development like Windsong would come in and it would actually help the Hellwood subdivision because it was so old and poorly designed or whatever. But before you repeat that and say, hey, I hear that Hellwood has done better, you might want to come talk to my neighbors. The water channeled right around those 2 beautiful retention ponds and continued to flood us out this time. My shop underwater, my neighbor's home underwater. In his basement, pumped it out for 2 days. It's an absolute mess. And I know it was a lot of rain. I get that. But the retention ponds did not do anything. The water found a way right around them. And I've got video. Unfortunately, I was out of town last week and wasn't able to send it to you, but I will send you those videos. And I'll also meet with Mr. Tuttle and see what can be done, if anything, by the developers. I remember the man from North Carolina, the developer, and when he told me, if you have any issues, please call me. And we have started that process. We'll see if he returns the calls. Thank you very much.
I'm Elisa McDowell, 1031 East Nichols Circle here in Gallatin, and I want to address the annexation that's coming up on the Kirkpatrick farm. I know it's going to happen. I have no doubt because it doesn't appear that our city's listening to us anymore. I have so much appreciation for our city, our services, our police and fire departments, and I'm grateful for the service of each of you. Your jobs aren't easy. I've been here since 1955, and I've always been proud of my city. I want to talk a little bit about a meeting that the residents of Nichols Circle, Nichols Lane, some other people from that area had with Joe Kirkpatrick in 2022. He was kind enough to offer a meeting with the residents, and he talked about the desire to sell and develop the farm, which happens to be across our property line. He was willing to address the concerns of current residents and was extremely tolerant of several attendees who were openly irate about the possibility of development. During the meeting, Joe said, and I quote, "If you live on Nickel Circle, relax. There will not be any project that will diminish your homes." Eyeball to eyeball, he told us that. After the meeting, I approached him and thanked him for quickly retrieving his dad's cattle from our lot multiple times while we were in our building process. I'm pretty sure he did that for many residents of Nickel Circle. The Kirkpatricks were good neighbors to us, and I like to think that the circle returned that by respecting his property, his farm, his cattle. I don't know how anyone can look at the row of houses right on the border of our property on the proposed plan and say it will not harm us. There is no way to build on the Kirkpatrick farm without blasting, which means 30 to 50 feet from our shop and maybe 300 feet from our home. There's no way the proposed road will connect Nickel Circle to the banks of Lock 4 in the Kirkpatrick development that will not harm the circle. When you look at the developments proposed in the area known as Nickel Superblock, there are now or coming soon 5 developments. Consider it's all limestone over a cave system known as Lackey Cave. That means 5 developments requiring blasting for the next couple of years around our established homes. I keep hearing that the state controls blasting and the distance between the blast zone and a residential or commercial building is 300 feet, but our city controls what and the density that goes on that property that will require the blasting. And I hope you hear that. Hear this plea. You control the density that will require the blasting. 2 council members promised to vote no for a density at the banks of less than 2 residents per acre, and then accepted the creative bookkeeping that makes it appear the density is just over that. It made me sick to see how easily it turned. We've already had to regrout tile and need to retape and mud areas in our home, no doubt, caused from the blasting at Patterson Farms, Publix, and Woods Ferry. I can't even imagine what it'll be like when the blasting is 300 feet away. I shudder to think about our shop or our vintage cars, which are very close to our back property lines. And we have an RV that rests there when it's not traveling, which will be in imminent danger. I think the thing that angers me most about this and disappoints me the most is the proposed homes are placed on the plan appear against our lot lines. The proposed road connecting Nickel Circle to those very dense developments, 2 of them, will absolutely destroy our walkable circle. We had opportunities to build in new subdivisions. We chose Nichols. It was a safe place for us to raise our child where he could ride his bicycle and we could walk without fear of traffic. That needs to be protected. I keep hearing developers and city employees bragging about walkable neighborhoods. Cutting the road through Nickel Circle would not only take away an existing walkable neighborhood, it will ruin the peace and quiet that we moved here for. Thank you.
If there's anyone else that would wish to speak, now would be your time. Okay, seeing no one, public recognition is now closed. We'll move on to. Oh, well. Okay, we'll say public recognition is open for one additional person. Thank you.
My name is Chelsea Taylor. I live at 402 Chipman Road, Bethpage, and I am a current student at Vol State. I'm here to give part of my speech for my public speaking class, and I would like to note that I am speaking to City Council as a whole, as well as the community of Gallatin. Gentrification occurs when wealthy people move into a poorer area and renovate into apartments, homes, and businesses for the moderately rich. This increases property values and often displaces earlier residents. It's linked to creating a market of consumers willing to pay a premium for services and comfort instead of just the earlier residents. Gallatin is losing the farmland, beautiful wildlife, and our homes our history was built upon. But Chelsea, why are you talking about something that doesn't involve you? Well, after watching a local cemetery being shrouded by a Circle K convenience store, or hearing about our former courthouse being turned into a hotel, reading the articles of Project 25 made me upset, to say things at the very least. Now, if you live in or around Gallatin, you've strolled through downtown, savoring its unique blend of history and soul, partaking in the vibrant fall and spring festivals and numerous other gatherings. I can't predict the future, but I can tell you this. As a proud third-generation Gallatin citizen and a lifetime resident of Sumner County, having spent countless hours as a volunteer at the public library, I am resolute in my refusal to witness my hometown transformed into a business park or the Lock 4 subdivision turned into a massive empty homes, leading to our rapid displacement of farmland and wildlife. Before we begin, I have a neat fact. Thank you to the Nashville Public Television for the historical information. As the Civil War approached in April 1861, the citizens of Gallatin and Sumner County were generally opposed to the secession of the Union, but unanimously joined the Confederacy for fears of their safety, of everyone's safety. Following the Civil War, African-American families established communities near Gallatin, and the nation's first agricultural fair for Black citizens began. Now, that piece of history won't be found at the Smithsonian, but it's still important to Gallatin as a community and our working-class citizens. Gentrification is not just a process of urban renewal, it's a force that erodes the community's history, dilutes its culture, and diminishes its social fabric that benefits a few at the expense of everyone else. And it's happening right here in our home. A recent study by UT economist Charlie Martinez, guest starring on News Channel 5, revealed that the amount of land dedicated to agriculture and forestry in Tennessee has decreased from 86% in 2017 to 84% in 2023. The impact of this trend is visible in Sumner County, where more than 15,000 acres of land were lost to residential and commercial developments between 2014 and 2023. Shockingly, over 86,000 acres of land are being developed annually across the state, causing significant harm to wildlife and the environment due to the release of toxic substances and loss of homes. Now, how can we protect our agricultural roots if these companies just want to completely uproot them just to lay down concrete? It's important to note that agriculture significantly creates job opportunities. Although it may not be as glamorous as white-collar jobs, it provides a source of food, income, and contributes to our city's history and culture. Excuse me. Of course, there are probably a few people who don't really care about this, but deep down, we all know this is wrong. The rapid growth and high demand in Gallatin has led to an alarming disappearance of farmlands and homes. It shows how much our city council members care about us when they sell us off and move near the future location in Nexus, Tennessee, essentially wiping Gallatin off the map. Now, what solutions could we take to outweigh this $5 million deal? Well, now that we've already analyzed and understood how gentrification can harm the local community, we could focus on rebuilding or repairing current buildings in the square for a community facelift of sorts, kind of make things look a lot nicer than it already is. We could use the courthouse as an extension to the Sumner County Museum, allowing both high schools to use the courtroom for their criminal justice classes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Taylor, your time is up.
I apologize. I'm completely deaf, Mayor Page.
It's 5 minutes is the
I
time frame.
apologize for taking so long.
Did a great job.
This really feels important to me, and I've never felt more passionate about something, even just as a 27-year-old. We can utilize the vacant houses in the area to allow new residences to choose between living and a piece of Southern history. I'm almost finished, ma'am.
Taylor, I'm going to ask the council to vote to extend the time because you have 5 minutes. So
I still can't
can
understand.
you not read? I'm sorry. So, hang tight. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. No, 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 no. We had to. Can somebody down there tell her what we're saying? Because I know she can't see my lips.
Thank you, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
With the evidence of guaranteed rate as of 2022, the area of 37066 has a home vacancy rate of 1.2% and a rental vacancy rate for 3.1%. Advocating for affordable housing can fill each and every one of the 20,000 homes we have in this beautiful city and creating profit margin of at least $12 million. We don't need more homes. We need more solutions to the community's grief. We need the council to understand and listen to us that we want to save our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else wishes to speak? Okay, seeing no one, public recognition is closed for the evening, and we'll move to mayor's comments. Do want everybody that's interested in the flooding to stay tuned. We'll have some department heads at the end of the meeting kind of reporting where they are with some things, but I think I'll begin my comments this evening by another heartfelt thank you to the folks that work for the city of Gallatin that were truly, truly amazing last Wednesday night and Thursday and through the weekend. Richard DePriest, you get my hero award, your folks. They just really were amazing. It's like they haven't had a minute down before another disaster happens. And I think it's been a few months and we've had the tornadoes and then the resource authority and now this, but working with Public Works and also tackling all sorts of challenges all night long, all the next day, often the next night. Fire department, the police department, Gallatin Public Utilities. So many people work so hard to keep our citizens safe. I think the data that I was told just this morning, I may not still have those same notes. I guess I brought a different agenda with me. Chief Woodward, you can correct me. I think it was 56 people rescued from swift water and 1 dog. And it was 33 water rescues.
33 adults, 11 children, 1 pet.
Yeah, and so he was really lauding the success of our Swiftwater Rescue Team, the investment we have made in that. There was no loss of life here. There was no serious injury. There was a lot of flooding, and we've all had a lot of calls about the flooding and the impacts. Stormwater's assessing that. All the departments are, not all of the departments, but many of the departments related are assessing that. I think the thing that's so sad and most frustrating is I don't know that there's ever a solution that mitigates that amount of water in that short amount of time. But there are several projects ongoing and several in the works that will hopefully help. Some things have improved, some are just as they have been for so many years, and it's always sad and difficult when people lose property or have property damage. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our city employees who worked so hard in such treacherous conditions, making sure that everyone was safe during the storm, because it was a tough, tough night and day and following night. But we are all very, very fortunate. I do have some events that I want to mention to you coming up. Chief Beeman's birthday is tomorrow. The Gallatin Sertoma Club Pancake Breakfast is on the 18th, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Market Day at the Farmers Market is this Saturday. The Food Truck Festival at Gallatin Civic Center is happening from 11 until 4, and that's also Saturday. And then that night at Triple Creek Park is John Berry, who will be performing from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Local resident, huge country music singer, well known across the world. Rarely performs in Gallatin, and he is doing a show here in town. And I would really encourage people to take the opportunity to see him perform here where he lives if you get the opportunity. Coming up on the 24th is Councilman Fennell's birthday. Also on the 24th, Good Morning Gallatin, which is the state legislative update. They will update on the wrap-up of the legislation for the year. And also on that day is a ribbon cutting for Friends of Miracle Park's new STEM edition at Triple Creek Park. On that Sunday, it's Decoration Day at the City Cemetery. That's from 2 until 4. We'll be working to clean some markers in the cemetery, do some training there, celebrate those whose final resting places in our Gallatin City Cemetery. And then following that will be a bluegrass show benefiting the Gallatin City Cemetery on the Gallatin Downtown Square. That happens from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. And I have the wrong paper up here, so my other notes are downstairs in my office. So I may have some at the end of the meeting. But right now, we will move forward to ordinance 02405-23, and I will begin with our city planner, Brian Rose. And this is an ordinance of the City of Gallatin approving a preliminary master development plan for Nichols Place Phase 4, located south of Nichols Lane and east of Ferguson Boulevard, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mr. Rose.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you said, this is a proposal for a preliminary development master development plan for a 8-building, 4-unit townhome project. So that would total 32 units for the development on approximately 9.98 acres. And this is off of Ferguson Boulevard, which is just along this alignment here. And Phase 4 is located back in this area right here. This is the proposed layout for the project. So the 32 units are all in darker color right there. And they'll just have this continuation of the existing roadway that currently dead ends at this point. That will continue and connect back into Ferguson, Ferguson is actually the one at the very bottom here. And there's another roadway that goes right through the development between the two sets of homes there. Architectural plans for this are consistent with the previous phases of the development. They do not meet the 70% brick requirement, so the council would need to approve an alternative architectural plan. Staff does recommend that, and the Planning Commission has considered this development already and has recommended by 5-0 vote to the council that this be approved. This is within the suburban community character area, so it's consistent with that area that promotes mixed-use residential developments, including a variety of different residential types. The parking provided for the project, I'll back up. They have 2 units in each garage available and 2 spaces, in each garage, and then 2 spaces in each driveway for each unit. In addition to that, there are 8 spaces generally located right there for the public to be able to use when they have visitors that come to the site. With that, that's everything I have. Staff does recommend approval, and the Planning Commission recommended approval. Not sure if the applicant wishes to say anything, but turn it back to you.
Is the applicant here this evening, and would you like to speak? You don't have to, but. Okay, okay. So the applicant is here to answer any questions, should any member of this body have any. At this point, we'll open it for discussion.
I have a question. If, you said it doesn't meet the requirement for the brick, so what, did the other phases meet the same, is it similar to the other phases that are there?
Yes, it's consistent with the other phases those have all been approved for an alternative architectural plan as well, not meeting the 70% brick.
They're hardy board or?
I believe that's the case. Perhaps the applicant can answer that better for me, and I can't really see it very well from this distance on the plan, but I'll let Jim speak to that.
See it either. We'll see. They are a mixture of brick and hardy board. They do match the previous units that were there before, and I'm going to attempt to read this since I left my glasses back there. I have to borrow your eyes. We actually, I know they match. We'll get a percentage and bring that back to tell you exactly what they are. But they have a mixture on the front of hardy board and brick, and then on the sides and the rear, they have mostly brick.
The main thing to me is that they match what's already there. Thank you.
Motion to move to council.
Motion by Councilwoman George,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Love. Any further discussion, questions, Mr. Juvonce?
Thank you, Mayor. One of the conditions of approval, it's about requiring a notice of coverage from the T deck. Do you know if you got that?
It does say here, I'm going to interrupt for a second, 76.9% brick exterior, aggregate on all four sides.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Sure. One of the conditions of approval says the limits of disturbance of this project are greater than 1 acre and thus required a notice of coverage from the TDEC, Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation.
Yeah, that's just,
We will comply with that. The first three phases did comply with everything that TDEC requires, and we'll comply with that on this as well.
Good. And how many exit and entry you have on that, road-wise? 2. Thank you.
anything else? And this is ordinance 02405-23. All in favor of moving forward to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Does pass 7-0. Item 2 is ordinance 02405-25, an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, rezoning a 1.19 acre lot from CS Commercial Services District to the Core Commercial District located north of West Shell Street, west of South Water Avenue, authorizing the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this proposal is to rezone a 1.19 acre lot from the CS zone, commercial services zone, to the CC core commercial zone. The property is located at 460 South Water Avenue, located in this location right here. Just up from there is the downtown, so it's about a quarter mile south of Main Street. With this application, the property owner is seeking just the rezoning. The development of the property, whether it be subdivided or a site plan for commercial use, is still yet to be officially determined. They have not submitted any application to that effect. However, they did bring in a conceptual plan that they're looking at doing a mixed-use project on the site. The core commercial zoning does require site plan as part of that development process. Core commercial also does not require parking for commercial uses. However, parking for residential is still a necessary thing with development on that site. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the rezone with a condition of approval requiring a site plan and that the site plan provide a minimum of 2 parking spaces for each residential unit that is proposed. At this time, again, as I stated, a formal site plan has not been submitted, so we don't know the number of units nor the number of parking stalls that will end up on this site. But again, conceptually, they're looking at doing a mixed-use project with both commercial and residential uses on the site. The applicant is here, it's Josh King. Many of you know him. And I believe he'd like to say something since he's standing here behind me. So I'll turn the time over to him.
Brian's a little taller than me, so I'm going to adjust the microphone for just a little bit. So yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Josh King. My office is at 170 East Main, Suite 252 in Hendersonville. I'm happy to be representing my client, Yvonne Moore, and the rest of the design team and legal counsel, Marty, behind me. We are seeking a rezoning to CC for this property. CC is one of the few zoning districts in the city of Gallatin that does not require a development plan with it. So we will be, with the CC zoning, if it is approved, we will be submitting a site plan, but we can't fully determine what we can do with the site without the CC zoning, and we can't access the other pool of funds necessary to fully engage our engineer until we have the zoning in place. So we're following the rules of that the city's established, and we are asking city council to remove the condition of a minimum of 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. It puts us in a weird position where we would have more parking lot on this site than building, but also there's a specific paragraph within the CC zoning that says thou shall not have more than X amount of the site devoted to parking. So the point of the Planning Commission and the concern of what is the ultimate parking going to be on the site is important to us. We are working through and looking at how do we balance the unique uses on this site with the long-term vision of the city through Plan Gallatin. We're just asking for city council to remove that particular condition and allow us to work with city staff and Planning Commission to determine what is the best parking scenario on the site and to work through operations before we get into a full engineering larger parking lot on this site.
Thank you,
That, I'm
Josh.
happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Josh. You still planning on doing
Want
what
to
you...
recognize?
Sorry. You still planning on doing what you kind of presented at the planning?
We are. The corner will be anchored by a 3-story mixed-use building, so that would be commercial on the ground floor with 2 levels of affordable housing residential apartments above it. And then on the frontage of Shell Street, we're anticipating 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhomes that would front onto Shell Street but be accessed from garages in the rear off of a shared parking area.
I think what you did is great use of the space. I like your project. And I think that's what we need. We need to redevelop soft water down there, and hopefully it's the first domino to redevelop that. So I'm going to approve. I'm going to vote for it. And if removing the condition parking, I saw your plan. There is plenty of parking. If removing the condition parking, let's do that. I'm going to make a motion, send it to council without and removing the condition of parking.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, I got the first part about make a motion, but I didn't get the second part.
Remove the conditions on the parking requirement.
Motion a second. Any discussion from anybody? Further questions?
Josh, are you going to tear down what's there now and rebuild?
We are. We had the architects come in and look at a building reuse, and the building itself the way that it's structured and the way that it's designed does not lend itself to reuse very well. But if anyone knows anyone within the leadership of the Hartsville Church of Christ, this was their original church back in the 50s all the way up through the early 70s. We'd be happy to donate some bricks to them so that they can reuse that piece of their church's history and their foundation however they see fit at their current location.
Thank you.
How many three-bedroom sites did you say there would be?
That's a little bit up in the air still. We do not have a fully engineered site, but the townhomes on the rear that front Shell Street, right now we're looking at about 4 or 5. But again, that number is not set in stone. We don't have a fully engineered plan yet.
Okay, thank you all. This is ordinance 02405-25. All in favor of moving it forward to council as, with the one requirement eliminated as requested with the motion in the second, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Does pass on to council unanimously. Item 3 is resolution R2405-38. It's a resolution of the City of Gallatin adopting a plan of services for the annexation of 3 parcels totaling 34.45 acres located northeast of Lower Station Camp Boulevard, southwest of Big Station Camp Boulevard, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So this is a proposal to annex 3 parcels totaling 34.45 acres. The property is located along Big Station Camp and Lower Station Camp roads. Big Station Camp is located right there. Lower Station Camp is located right there. Previously, I think we have another drawing that shows this. No, not super good. Previously, the portions of the property north and south of this, generally located right in here and all the way down into there, were recently annexed in order to make these 3 parcels contiguous. So that portion has been completed, and these 2 parcels remain in order to make a larger contiguous piece, which will be contiguous both on the south and the north, on all sides essentially. This edge here along Lower Station Camp Boulevard is our edge of our urban growth boundary. So we won't be annexing anything to the west of that in the future. These properties are currently zoned RR in the county, and each of them includes a single-family residence. Since 2015, annexations have been required to be by the property owner request or by referendum. This is by property owner request. They must, with few exceptions, also occur within the urban growth boundary, which this is. Upon annexation finalization, the city will then be able to consider rezoning the property. As it's brought in, it would come in with no zoning and then be processed as a rezoning request following annexation. Municipalities typically consider annexation for the following reasons: to ensure orderly future growth of the city and its surrounding areas, to ensure unified planning and zoning regulations and enforcement consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan and urban growth boundary plan, to protect or enhance the current and future municipal tax base, to increase the size and population of the community, to distribute the cost of providing municipal services more equitably and to facilitate long-range planning for the provisions of those services and to coordinate multiple municipal services. This annexation proposal has a plan of services attached as the second item, or the third item on the agenda, I'm sorry, the fourth item on the agenda. This is item number 3 and 4. And that this plan of services does include utilities, electrical service, recreational facilities and programs, public works, solid waste collection, street construction and repair, vehicle maintenance, street lighting, planning and zoning services, building and codes administration, police and fire protection services, stormwater, et cetera. According to a review by the different departments, these services would be able to be provided to this property. One comment of note that I wanted to just highlight was that this property would be subject to the Big Station Camp Boulevard Corridor Traffic Study and the pro rata contributions for traffic infrastructure as recommended in that study, and they'll be required to be based upon their impact that they'll have on the corridor. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
As the mayor needed to step out, so I'm moving over to her seat for just a few moments. Are we doing number 3 and number 4 at the same time, Mr. Rose?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Do we have any discussion or questions? Councilman Juvance?
Thank you, ma'am. I go for the plan of service as usual. Fire said to ensure an accurate response from public safety services, the existing property on annex into the city should be addressed on Lower Station Camp Creek Road. So I'm kind of worried about it after seeing what happened this week and videos of Lower Station Creek Road. Police, again, if future development of the property were to occur, additional resources might be required. So we know we're gonna need more police. Public work, stormwater, any additional public stormwater costs should be covered by stormwater customer fees. I'm worried about that too because I looked at the mayor presentation on the budget and it's like stormwater is already underwater, so that's not working. And for the annexation, page 57 of the packet says the city is not in default on any existing adopted plan of services, but Tennessee code annotated and has been showed numerous times, has been brought and back again, that there is an issue with the plan of service regarding the annexation of Area 4 of the corridor annexation presented on February 11, 2008, particularly concerning Longolo Park. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I will vote no on that because for what I know and what I think we're in default previous plan of services.
Thank you. Anyone else with any questions or comments? Been a motion and a second to move.
Motion to send them out.
Second.
Motion for items 3 and 4 to send on the council by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Fan. Any further discussion? Okay, this is Resolution R2405-38 and Resolution R2405-39. All in favor of moving forward to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Passes 6-1. Next item on the agenda is Resolution R2405-40. A resolution of the City of Gallatin adopting a plan of services for the annexation of 3 parcels. Wait. Oh, okay, sorry. Three parcels totaling 106.82 acres located north of Beach Valley Road and west of Woods Ferry Road providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Again, as stated, this is a proposal to annex 3 parcels totaling 106.85 acres. This property is located along Woods Ferry Road, just north of the Banks at Lock 4 project. So Banks at Lock 4 is generally right here. And the current property proposed to be annexed is in yellow right there. Woods Ferry Road runs along this edge here. And Nichols Lane is at the north end there. The property is currently zoned RR, Rural Residential District in the county, and includes a single-family residence and various accessory structures. Property is otherwise undeveloped. Since 2015, again, annexation has been required to be by property owner request or by referendum. This, again, has been by property owner request. Upon annexation finalization, again, this one would also receive consideration or be able to be considered for rezoning once it's fully annexed into the city. I won't repeat the reasons for annexation again, since they were just stated in the last one. Again, this does have a plan of services attached with it. I didn't have anything in particular to note with the plan of services other than each department had provided that they felt that they could provide the services. I'll turn the time back over to you.
Okay.
I'll turn it back to you.
One question. Is this the area that we've been discussing before where Clear Lake Meadows Road would continue, would be necessary to annex that, to continue that road through that area?
Yes, ma'am. So Clear Lake Meadows is generally right here. And the Nichols Place project, which we discussed previously, is right there. And Ferguson Boulevard is the road that would be the extension of Clear Lake Meadows. And eventually, if Lock 4 development moves forward, then part of their proposed improvements is to realign Clear Lake Meadows to come into the same alignment as the Ferguson Boulevard right there. And then as this property develops, Clear Lake Meadows would extend up to the north and hopefully be able to connect through to the end of that and make it a continuous roadway.
Like that road is necessary. I'm not anxious to put in a lot more houses there, but maybe the annexation is necessary for that road.
I would say without that annexation, Clear Lake Meadows extending down would be a very much more difficult proposal.
I think you guys, my microphone's off. I think you can be considering 2405-40 and 41 to move forward to council. One's the plan of service and one's the annexation, so.
Motion to send 5 and 6.
Okay, have a motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilwoman George. Discussion, questions may continue. Councilman Juvance.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, reading the plan of services, police and fire doesn't take account the 300 units we already saw on a paper to be added there, so we're gonna have to pay for that. Gas, we're still missing 20% of the department, so again, we continue to expand without taking care of what we have, and how we're gonna do that. And the school, we're gonna add 300 houses again. You're probably read the email sent last week by a school board member warning us about the impact of the banks of Lockford impacting Gallatin High School. So now we're going to add 300 more units. How are we going to do that? I don't have a solution, and I don't see a solution brought in front of us. So, and regarding annexation, the same comment that I did before. So I don't think we can afford to expand anymore. You had public comments. People got flooded. People asked why we're not taking care of them. So why don't we stop, take care of the people we already have before expanding and opening the city to more? Let's fix what we have. Let's do our job. Fix what we have before continuing to expand. And I'm pretty sure I'll make a lot of people happy if we were doing that. And I think that's our job. Our primary job is to make sure our constituents are taken care of. And I think we have a tendency of forgetting about that. So the flood, there was a lot of water. I haven't seen that much water either since I've been living here. And we get some water out of my creek. And I've seen water back there. I've seen Sean's truck underwater back there. Remember a couple of years ago? He's awake. Sean? You remember your truck underwater back there a couple of years ago? So there is water back there, but like we have now, I saw water going from my creek up to passing on top of Longolo Park this time. So the more we cut the land and the more we cut the ability of the land to get the water, the more we're going to get that. So I think it's time to rethink the strategy and take care of our people. So I will be voting no on that.
I'd just like to say in answer to that, if I vote yes, I'm not voting yes for a project. I'm going to vote yes on annexation, which is what we're talking about tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else with comments, questions? Okay, this is Resolution R2405-40 and Resolution R2405-41. All in favor of moving forward to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Passes 6-1. Item number 7 is ordinance 02405-22, ordinance appropriating ARPA water infrastructure grant funds. Ms. Nichols.
Good evening. Several months ago, we presented a plan to extend water into the northern part of Sumner County through an ARPA grant. This is the ordinance to actually budget that money. $19 million will be coming from the state of Tennessee. TDEC, federal government sends it to them, they send it on to us, and then $9 million has been received from Sumner County government. Again, that was part of their direct TDEC funding from ARPA. So $28 million project to help give more secure water to our neighbors in the north. Project's already been approved. This is just the budget for the project.
Appropriation of the funds that are received.
Motion to send it on.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Love. Are there any questions? Any discussion? Okay, it's ordinance 02405-22. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Passes 7-0. Item number 8 is ordinance 02405-24. Ordinance appropriating $17,137 from revenue received by sale of surplus property. Mr. Brown, Parks and Recreation Director.
Yes, this is an ordinance where we sold some surplus property. We'd like to get it moved over to our capital outlay to buy a roller.
Motion to send on.
There you go.
For those who don't know what a roller is, because I wouldn't, you hadn't explained it to me.
Sorry?
It's a roller.
So to smooth out the field.
Yes, it's to roll the infields and outfields, try to hold out dirt through these floods a little bit too.
Questions? Okay, it's ordinance 02405-24. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes unanimously. Item 9 is Resolution R2405-31, resolution authorizing the Gallatin Police Department to apply for the Burn Discretionary Community Project Grant. Chief Sarles.
This is a federal grant that was sent to us by Representative Rose, and it's going to allow us to buy 3 new vehicles for the park, replacement vehicles.
Motion to sign on?
No, it's no money from the city.
Motion by Councilman Juvons,
Second.
second by Councilman Carter. Any questions, any discussion? Thank you, Congressman Rose. This is Resolution R2405-31. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes on unanimously to council. Item 10 is Resolution R2405-30. Charles Gavigan is here for engineering this evening, and this is a resolution accepting public improvements by the city of Gallatin in the Vineyard.
This is just a resolution for the acceptance of public infrastructure for a portion of Concord Road in the Vineyard. Planning Commission unanimously approved this item, so that's it.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Fan, second by Councilman Carter. All right. Okay, this is Resolution R2405-30. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Moves on to council unanimously. And then Resolution R2405-36 is a resolution approving a waiver of the Engineering Division development fees and sureties for the City of Gallatin-sponsored projects. Mr. Gavigan again.
This is a resolution for the request to waive the fees, the engineering fees and sureties for 3 city-sponsored projects. Those projects are the South Water East Winchester Culvert Replacement, the Elizabeth Court Sinkhole Repair, and the Franklin House Parking Lot Extension, or expansion. So,
Motion by Councilman Fan, second by Councilman Hayes. Are there any questions, any discussion? Okay, this is Resolution R2405-36. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Gavigan.
just one quick note as well. As we develop the subdivision regulations and construction manual, we do plan to include some language in there that will waive those fees, so we don't have to keep bringing those to you.
Very smart, thank you. This is, item 12 is Resolution R2405-33, resolution updating the enterprise fund policy. Ms. Nichols, Finance Director again.
For several years, we've had a rainy day fund for the general fund, and then in January of '22, we broadened that to include the enterprise funds, water sewer fund, and then the gas fund, and we set those at 25% of the operating budget for the year. Since that time, we realized that we've somewhat double dipped on the gas fund because for purchased gas, we already have a set margin on that cost for what we charge the customers. So we really have that overly funded, so to
Covered
speak.
more than once.
Yeah, double coverage on that. So we would like to propose raising the gas percentage to 50% of their operating budget, but eliminating the purchased gas from that calculation. Right now, purchased gas is an operating expense, and it's included in the calculation, but depending on the weather, depending on variables, that number can fluctuate from year to year. We would like to eliminate that from the calculation, but to prove that we are being very conservative and very forward-thinking, we want to increase the rate from 25% to 50%.
Good balance there.
Motion to move it on.
Motion by Councilwoman George,
Second.
second by Councilman Fennell. Any questions on this? Any discussion? It's Resolution R2405-33. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes unanimously. Item 13, Resolution R2405-42. All in favor, I'm sorry. That third page threw me. Resolution reappointing Alan Ramsey to the Gallatin Health Education and Housing Facilities Board. Rosemary Bates, Interim EDA Director.
Hey, everybody. What I'd like for you to consider, if you're okay with it, items 13, 14, and 15 are reappointing people to the HEHFB who already serve on the HEHFB. I did include either a current resume or what was presented to you previously, or in the case of Mr. Ramsey, I wrote his job experience and qualifications in a paragraph on the what we usually call the blue sheet, which may not mean anything to anybody except unless you were here 18 years ago. So if you're okay with looking at those three together, I'd like to stop there before I move to the other two.
It's 42, 43, and 44, Alan Ramsey, Joanne Walker, and Stan Carver, all that have been
Yes.
serving.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Love. Okay. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, resolutions R2405-42-43 and -44. All in favor of moving forward to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 7-0. Item 16 is Resolution R2405-45, resolution appointing Jamie Campbell as board member of the Gallatin Economic Development Agency Board. And I bet you also want to do 46, which would appoint Kevin Blankenship as board member of the Gallatin Economic Development Agency.
Yes, in this situation, we normally have 5 board members. 2 have resigned, 1 for health reasons, and the other just because of his workload. So these are 2 new people, and I included their resume or their credentials in the packet as well. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer you. Our board members and our board chair vetted both of these people. Again, I'll answer any questions if you're willing to move these on.
Both forward to council.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilwoman George. I know one of these individuals, certainly respect him. The other, what I've read and heard about him, certainly sounds like a great fit as well.
They're both huge champions of Gallatin. Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, Mr. Javance?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to separate 16 and 17 because I'm going to vote differently for both. I don't know Mr. Campbell, but it's not a requirement, but I think that someone on the board of the Gallatin Economic Development Agency should work and reside in Gallatin, so it's not the case. So I'll be voting no for that one, but 17, I think it's a great resume and that'll be a great addition to the board. So if you take my vote like that for both, it doesn't matter.
But one at a time. Any other comments or questions? Okay, this is Resolution R2405-45. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No on 16, yes, on 17.
Okay, I'm taking them one at a time. Item 17 would be Resolution R2405-46. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. So 6-1 on 16 and
Thank you.
7-0 on 17. Thank you, Ms. Bates. And then number 18 is the discussion of Jackson Thornton's review of Gallatin's natural gas rates. Mr. Kellogg, Public Utilities Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. If you remember, a couple of years ago, we contracted with Jackson Thornton to do a rate study, cost of service study for our water system. Following that, we contracted with them to do a rate study for our gas system, just to see where we stood rate-wise and ability, to pay the items that are coming through, just with the cost of materials and everything going up. So I'd like to have Sarah Chandler with Jackson Thornton come up. She's got a short presentation, and then I'll come back up.
Thank you, David. Great to be here again. It's been a couple of years since I've seen y'all, but I've got a quick presentation of the cost of service study that we did. I'm just going to hand you these. Just so y'all know, I'm summing up this book of spreadsheets. So I've tried to make it as concise as I can, but we're looking at the gas system. Okay. All right, so the first couple of slides that I will do are just why you do a study. So, and I will say, if you have questions as I'm going through this, please interrupt me and ask them. I'd rather you go ahead and ask the questions so that we can make sure that, so that I can make sure that you understand what I'm saying or if I haven't explained it well enough. So the typical objectives of a rate study are, first and foremost, revenue stability and revenue sufficiency. It is obviously a publicly owned utility, so there's not a profit motive, but it's a very expensive business. So you have to make sure that you've got enough revenue coming in to operate the gas system the way that it needs to be operated. The second component is fairness and equity. That just means everybody's paying their fair share, nothing more, nothing less. So each rate class is not subsidizing another rate class, and you have enough revenue coming in. The third bullet point is ability to pay. We work with about 120 utilities across the Southeast, and there's not a room like this that we walk into that ability to pay is not a concern or a major objective. And part of our job as rate consultants is to help the utilities do as little as you have to do to rates, to do everything that you need to do to operate the system to provide safe, reliable service to your citizens. The fourth objective is simplicity. You want your customers, when they receive their bill, to be able to understand what they're getting and what they're paying for. And finally, defensibility. Everything we do is based on standard and methodologies that are accepted in the industry, and should someone challenge your rates, this would be your defense as to why you are charging the rates that you're charging. Overview of the process, we're looking at things on a cash needs basis, how much cash needs to come in the door in a 12-month period to operate the system. And then from there, based on how each of the customer classes uses the system, we spread those costs to each of the rate classes. Then we look at the fixed portion of that and the volumetric portion of that on the gas system. And then finally, as appropriate, we compare the revenue that came in and compare it to the revenue that is targeted. And then if necessary, we recommend rate changes. And we do have a rate change for you to consider this evening. These are the numbers for the gas system in Gallatin. This is what makes up your revenue requirement and how much cash that the gas system needs to operate in a given year. The first component is that $1.9 million. That is the O&M expenses on the system, just the day-to-day operating. Second component is the gas cost, and that's 15.6 for the period that we're looking at. We're looking at 12 months ended June of 23, the most recent audited period. In addition to that, we add in the transfers back to the city of 419, and then debt service. Debt service is principal and interest, and it also includes the $6 million that is going to be borrowed for the extension to the Westmoreland. So that's $1 million. And then the rate funded capital target is that 2.9, just under $3 million. That is based on the work plan, the 5-year work plan that the city that David and his team have developed for the infrastructure needs of the system. So you add all that together, you get the total revenue requirement of just under $22 million for the system. From that, we back away other revenue. That's any revenue you receive from anything other than selling gas. So that would be interest income, late payments, penalties, anything like that. So that your rates need to bring in $21.5 million. Looking at that just in graph form, 71 cents of every dollar goes to pay for the gas on the system. The remaining 29 cents is either paying for operating expenses or reinvestment into the system, and then that 2% is the payment back to the city. This is looking at your revenue requirement by rate class. So if you look at, I'm used to walking around, but if you look at the far left column, that's the total for the system, that just the 21 million, and then how that revenue requirement, if you stack all those bars on top of each other, you get to the total. So what that tells you is y'all got some good industrial load, but you are primarily residentially driven. This is the slide that sums up the study as best we can. So based on the revenue requirement as it's been built out, the gas system is recovering 88 cents on the dollar. So that's that far left column, and that's the most, if you'll remember I said a minute ago, the primary objective is to make sure you have enough revenue coming in. That shows you that you don't. Ideally, in a cost of service world, the total's at 100%, and then each rate class is at 100%. For the test period, that 88% recovery is a $2.6 million shortfall of the revenue that's needed to operate the system. The residential class is under-recovered by $1.9 million. Given the under-recovery, rate adjustments are warranted. So we're recommending for consideration tonight that that y'all vote to establish a customer charge for all of the rate classes. Right now, the way that it is set up, they only pay for the usage that they use. And what this would do is establish a customer charge, which would be a fixed monthly charge, which is very standard in the industry. And if you think about it, and a lot of, aside from gas costs, most of your other costs are fixed. And you want to be able to match up fixed costs with fixed revenue, and this would do that. So we're looking at a 3-year plan, and each of the amounts by rate class are listed there. So residential and commercial, that would be $5 per year. So at the end of the 3-year period, there would be a residential customer charge of $15, and they would pay for whatever amount of gas they use in a particular month. At full implementation, 3 years from now, that would bring in $2.9 million for the gas system.
What is California on that list?
Pardon me?
What does California stand for? Thank you, CIP. Thank you.
I was gonna say,
I knew I was trying, we were trying to remember, and it was like, I know this, I'm just going to ask, so thank you.
darn it, it went the wrong way.
It's California
Sorry.
Industrial Products, one of our industrial customers.
CIP.
Yeah, Pete.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, I wanted you to interrupt. I want you to interrupt and ask a question, but somehow we lost it. Is it coming back? Okay, sorry. Somehow it went on another slide, but let me see if I. Okay, so so this is your residential rate curve, and so the easiest way to look at this is the result of the study is that column that says cost of service rates. So the result of the study is that you would have a $25.50 customer charge and then charge 84 cents per CCF. That's represented in that blue line, as you can see on a per usage level. The current rate is reflected in that red line. So if you think about it, when you're looking at the graph, if you're below the blue line, you're losing money. If you're above the blue line, you're making money. So at no point does that red line go above the blue line, hence the under recovery on the residential class of 1.9 million. And so what the proposed rate is reflected in that green line, and that would be at full implementation, so $5 each year at the end of the 3-year period. There would be that $15 customer charge, and then paying for the usage. that they have. So that would be, that's represented in that green line. So you're just cutting the gap from where you're losing money and making it closer. You're not getting all the way there yet. And this is just showing the numbers that drive that. Your average residential customer uses about 48 CCFs a month. It's costing you $67. And your current rates are bringing in 52.23. This would bring you up to 67.23. So 50 cents a day increase at full implementation. And this is the projected recovery based on the FY23 billing statistics. So you go from the 88% to 102% recovery. And anywhere with cost of service, anywhere between 97 and 103, you're right in line with where you need to be. This does not take into account, by the time we get 3 years out, that 2% over recovery will probably be eaten into by inflation. So that we think it's a reasonable step forward. Questions?
We were meeting this morning, David mentioned, getting to the point where we were doing a tap fee too for the,
Pardon me? Say that.
a tap fee too for the gas
We're going to
meters.
look at that. We have not looked at it yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
that seems to make really good sense to me too.
Yes,
Mr.
we looked
Schwartz.
at it on the water and sewer side for y'all, and we presented those at the same time last time, but we haven't begun that engagement. But
That'll help. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you, Mayor, ma'am. Great presentation, thank you. On your numbers, you included the debt service, the $6 million for the extension, but what kind of customer you included in that on your projection that will bring with the extension? Was that included in your calculation?
No, we didn't. We didn't do any projections going forward. So the new customers that will be added on to that will just help as you go forward. So when those, and I don't recall how many customers that will be, but when those come on, because debt service is a fixed expense, that just gives you that many more customers over which to spread those those expenses.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any questions, y'all? Okay. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Kellogg, anything you want to follow up with?
A couple of clarifications. So the Westmoreland project is a $3.8 million project. That's the engineering estimate on it. The remainder of the money is for capital improvements in our distribution system now, main replacements, new line construction. So that's 3.8 going to the Westmoreland project, and then the rest will be in our system. With this body's blessing, I'd like to come back in either 2 weeks or 4 weeks with a rate ordinance that will reflect the 3 steps on the customer charge. Part of the customer charge for us, we lose 4,000 to 5,000 customers in the summer that are only heat-only customers. But we have to build and design and operate our system based off of their winter usage, but we generate no revenue off of them in the summer. So the customer charge would be an annual fixed cost that we would have that revenue from to maintain and operate the system.
I think it's good. Anybody else?
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Look forward to that. Thank you both. Okay, that concludes the regular agenda. It's going to bring us down to other business. I do have one thing, and that is, I mentioned this during the budget presentation, but I want to ask this body, do you want us to move forward with preparing the materials we need to consider taking a sales tax increase referendum? It's not up to this body whether or not we enact it. The voters would make that decision. But Hendersonville's done it, the county's talking about it, other cities have done it.
The monthly increase.
The reason I'm saying this is because we have an election coming up in November, and we're getting close to being able to get on, on, up for vote. If we decide that we want that, we can't just kind of wait and make that decision later in the summer or something like that. And then we won't have elections again for 2 more years, so I wanted to.
What kind of number are we talking about?
Well, we're limited to 0.5%. I mean, I think that's what Hendersonville did when they passed theirs in the spring. It's what a lot of other cities are doing. So I think in Hendersonville, actually, they had legislation passed specifically for them this year where they could not have that apply to groceries. So that's, one thing that we could offer. Certainly, we would want to make it for specifics. I'm thinking certainly public safety and maybe parks and recreation would be the ask I think we would make of our residents. The advantage is that as costs go up, it's going to cost the city more, and we don't want to raise property taxes because that burden often hits. All that burden goes to the people who own property, and a lot of those are income limited. If we were to increase the sales tax, as you know, Gallatin has a lot of people who shop here and don't live here. So we're actually getting a lot of revenue from people outside of our community to support the things that we provide for our citizens. So.
Kind of fair to put it out there on the public where they can vote on it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
required by the